And now I would like to pass it over to Rorik, who's going to do a quick intro, Wiggsy, and then we'll turn it over to Wiggsy.
So can people hear me now?
Yep,
Is it okay?
yep.
Okay, perfect. So, yeah, Gil, my husband, and I have known Wiggsy for many years, and many of you probably know her. She's really an icon for LGBTQ rights in Silicon Valley, a real pioneer. And she's going to talk a little bit about that as well. But on a personal note, she's also, she's been at San Jose State for many years and also is a counselor, a personal counselor. And she just has really helped out a lot of people that struggle with life issues. And personally, she has helped Gil and I in the past. So it's more than just her activism. It's, she's a great resource, and we are thrilled to have her here. We try to think of speakers to come and talk to us every month, and we're just thrilled that she was able to join us. And I know she really wanted to be here because she's a face-to-face kind of person. Obviously, she doesn't like the Zoom call so much, but anyway, we're thrilled to have her, and we welcome you, Wiggsy.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's nice to be here. After all these years, I think it's my first journey here.
Yeah.
All right, so Wiggsy, go ahead and take it away. We'll give you 30 minutes to talk and then 15 minutes for Q&A. You don't take the full 30 minutes, that's fine, but I'll do a little dinger at 30 minutes.
Okay, well, please interrupt me anytime. Start a little bit. First, I want to say something, that somebody who's been a great friend for BAYMEC over the years died yesterday, and that was Norm Mineta, who had been a congressperson for this area, had been the mayor of San Jose, was a city council person, secretary of treasurer, and secretary of commerce. He's 90 years old, and he wanted to go on, but we will miss him. He has always been wonderful to BAYMEC. No, not always. Let me rephrase that. Ken and I first, Ken Yeager is my compadre in this endeavor of BAYMEC, which is an organization that does political action stuff. And he and I went to see Norm when he was mayor of San Jose to try to get him to support issues for our community. And he was not very welcoming of that idea. But after the A and B election, which was very difficult, and he just didn't want to do it. So we went and talked to him, then we went back to talk to him. And between Ken and myself and Chris Strobel, I think we finally convinced Norm, who had spent a good portion of his life in a Japanese internment camp, that discrimination against his community was no different than discrimination against our community. And so he became a supporter, but he wasn't just a supporter. I had been to many speeches that Norm has given and know of many. He has never once, since he decided to support us, never once not said something about needing to support the gay, lesbian, bi, and transgender community. He was a wonderful guy, and I will miss him personally. I was very fond of him, but I think our community will also miss him. And I just wanted to say that. So if you have any questions about him, call me. I don't know anything about memorial service or anything like that. I talked to Chris yesterday and he didn't know either. So anyway, but I think that kind of exemplifies what we have done and what I've done over the years. When I went to graduate school, I went to San Jose State. I graduated from there. I played for a year, raced sports cars and did rowdy things. And then my family said, well, it was time to stop that nonsense and do something functional in the world, like not racing cars. So I went to graduate school. I went to Tulane and New Orleans. That was my first really journey into the idea of doing social work and issues, dealing with those kinds of issues. I was very disturbed by the experience because I'd never been in a place that had so much profound poverty and so many. I mean, you could go down, say, St. Charles Avenue, and there were these huge mansions on the street, and you go one block in, and then there are cardboard houses where people live who don't have money. And in this case, in most of the South, it's Black people. But I spent 2 years there. I didn't get kicked out, which was unusual since I've been kicked out of a number of schools. And I realized that people were not like me. I mean, they didn't have the kind of financial comfort that I was raised with, and that there was real poverty and sadness in the world. And it just sort of struck me that it was something that I needed to pay attention to. I came back from Tulane. I was working at a daycare treatment center for autistic and schizophrenic children. Now, kids that would be considered on the spectrum. And in that situation, they found out that I was a lesbian and fired me, which I'd worked there for 5 years. I thought, you guys are really stupid. You didn't figure this out by now. So I went to work for San Jose State. I was at San Jose State on a temporary basis, filling in for a man who was on sabbatical. And when I went there, they were talking about hiring somebody with diversity. And I said, well, you know, I sort of fit that model. I am a lesbian and I am a woman, and you guys are all guys, white on top of it. So anyway, I was hired on a tenure track faculty position. I went to the president of the college at the time and told him that I was a lesbian. I wanted him to know that because I didn't want to be fired again. But that was really my coming out. He looked at me and he said, oh, Wiggsy, go back and do your work. A very, very nice guy, very nice guy, one of the best presidents we'd ever had there. I spent almost 50 years at San Jose State. And it was there at San Jose State that we had the first gay organization. It was gay. I'm going to put quotes around that organization that oftentimes, you know, was started, or really was started by Paul Wysocki, who has died now and not with us. But it was the first student organization of the campuses, and at that time there were 19 campuses. The chancellor was not happy, which was understandable. He was kind of a jerk. He was a jerk. He wasn't kind of a jerk. He was a jerk. And the students were wonderful. They gave us money for our organization and supported us. And we started then the Gay and Lesbian Group. Very shortly after I went to San Jose State was the Briggs Initiative. Some of you may remember that. The Briggs Initiative was an initiative that Senator Briggs decided that, I think he sort of influenced Ron DeSantis. He didn't want any gay people in the classroom. And you could not only not be a gay person in the classroom, if you espoused positive feelings about gay people in the classroom, you could be fired also. That was his initiative. That was a statewide initiative. It was hard. We fought it, you know, successfully. But I think that from my perspective, I think that the success of this, of beating this initiative and beating Briggs, who was a terrible man. I spent some time with him doing a couple of debates and things like that. He was an awful man. But it's, I think reason we said it is because Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter both said that this initiative was unnecessary and that it was mean-spirited. And I think it really is one of those situations where we as a community benefited from their support by helping us to defeat the Briggs Initiative. I'm not sure we would have been successful had it not been for them. But what it says to me is the importance of us, as we travel through this political jungle that we are stuck in, that we try somehow or other to always bring other people into our group, regardless of who they are. And, you know, Ronald Reagan was not my favorite president. And, but the fact that he realized that it wasn't a good initiative and it didn't need to pass it needed to be celebrated and supported. And that's one of the lessons that I learned. It was kind of my first foray into that arena of dealing with, you know, political issues. And it taught me a lesson that I had to be open. The whole thing about Norm Mineta is the same thing, is we had to be open to people who are not like us or don't know us and don't like us. You know, it's always hard when people just discount you, you know. But Ken and I decided that we were going to make a go of BAYMEC, which was a gay and lesbian group. We started as 37 years old now. And we did a whole lot of things. We did most of the AIDS initiatives that were done here in the California, the anti-AIDS initiative. We did ours in San Jose and we're very successful. People in San Jose really rallied around and supported, you know, to defeat the Briggs, can't remember that guy's name. It'll come to me. That's one of the things about getting older, you don't remember things. But anyway, he was an awful man and decided that, you know, AIDS was not something that the government should be supporting people with. Probably some of you know and remember, you know, that San Francisco was the mecca of treatment for AIDS in the country and in the world. And so we all had good influence in terms of learning about HIV and its various issues. So we did that. We did issues on discrimination. We asked the city council, the San Jose City Council to include domestic partners, the old word domestic partners, in their insurance policy. We worked with the jails and trying to get them to sort of join the modern era. They haven't quite done that yet. But we spent a lot of time with the jail committees trying to get them to be more sensitive about people with HIV and also gay people, particularly gay men, and in the jail situation, but women as well. Women really, we brought out issues of women getting, you know, short shrift. The men had, you know, books and had exercise equipment and had a lawn to sit on. The women had mud and nothing else. So the discrimination, you know, that existed in the country existed there. But again, it was not a lesbian or gay issue. It was a women's issue. It was a human issue for us. I went on to do a lot of work in the area of domestic violence. I was on a committee with Rolanda Pierre-Dixon, who was a district attorney that really pushed the domestic violence agenda in terms of trying to find ways to protect people. We were on a death review and we spent some time together doing a lot of talking and working on issues for people who had died in violent relationships. I was on the Human Relations Commission, which I thought was an important place to be because we're a human and they needed to take our issues into consideration. I did a lot of work at San Jose State. I always liked the fact that the president would say to people, "Oh yeah, I don't know who her boss is. It's certainly not me." And I would point out he was right about that. You know, I told him many times, I said, "I don't work for you. I work for the students here at this university." And it was really hard for people to argue when I say that to them. They say, well, you have to pay this, where, this, that, the other thing. And I said, no, I don't work for you. I work for the students. And they go, what were they going to say? No, you don't. No, not hard. So I just generally have created as much mischief and mayhem as I could in terms of trying to get the world to see us as a community of people who deserve respect and have made a huge contribution in so many ways. If you look at art, and music, and theater, and you know, all the kind of soft and gentle, loving things that we often don't pay, you know, a lot of attention to. It really has been done by individuals who themselves were gay or lesbian. And unfortunately, sadly, we're not able to be out for, you know, given where they were in the times and stuff, but it's important for this world to recognize that the LGBT community has made a huge contribution to the well-being of a country and of a world. We were the first organization that really took on the issue of dealing with the concerns that the transgender community was dealing with at the time. And So we started growing in that direction of learning what was needed by the transgender community. I don't know, I mean, I could go on blessedly, this is sort of boring, but what do you want to know? What can I be helpful to talk about?
Well, I have one question, Wiggsy, just because I caught it on the news today. Overfell, I don't know his first name, but he made a comment on the news about the Roe v. Wade going down, and he said he's getting very nervous. So I would be very nervous too. And should I be nervous? What do you think?
Oh, yeah, I think it's very likely that it'll go down. I mean, I think that people didn't pay attention to the fact that, Amy Coney Barrett and that other fool, what's his name? That thinks we have. Huh?
Kavanaugh.
Who?
Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah, Kavanaugh, and not so much him as the other one, Alito. And of course, Clarence Thomas, who lives in another century, that they will vote to defeat Roe v. Wade. The thing about Roe v. Wade, and I think that one person in the courts did say this, that it really needs to be codified, and they're absolutely right. That should be a law that can't just be whimsically turned over by people's, sort of thought that they have the right to defy, what the issues are for women in this country and their families. So I think it will go. I'm concerned about, when you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who believes that people are eating children in pizza parlors, and has an influence of some kind. It's pretty scary when you look at. I have always tried to be kind of mild about Republicans and Democrats, because I think that we walk both sides of the street often together. But I got to tell you, the Republicans now are very dangerous, and I think our community has some real reasons to be concerned about what they will try to do to us. Fortunately, the laws for the gay community are codified by the president, by Obama. But I think it's going to be a tough time. I think we're going to have a tough time, and I think that it's very possible this country will reelect that idiot to be president of the United States if he runs.
I have a question about the general political environment and whether you have any perspective about it. It seems as though people are so willing to be offended and so much looking to criticize and find fault and, as you say, even develop these outrageous conspiracy theories. I'm wondering if you have perspective about what the common person can do, because of course we've had, a whole history of being treated as offensive. And I wonder if you have any particular perspective about today's environment.
Well, I do. I'm not sure that it's accurate, but I sure have a view of it. I think that Donald Trump came along at a time when people were really struggling. I think a lot of people in this country, you were taught and believed that, what they had to do was be good citizens, work hard, go to school, get an education, and then they would be successful. I think the problem was that was not true. I think with the technological advances that we have made in this country have really kind of knocked out the middle class in so many ways. And I think they're angry, and I think that they're hurt, and I think they're really frightened. And when I look at people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and Ron DeSantis and people like that, I think to myself, those are people who are really scared. And I have to admit, I have a hard time being nice about it. But I think that we have to try somehow or other to not demonize the Republicans and to not demonize other people. Donald Trump is a cult leader. I've often thought about Jim Jones, if any of you remember Jim Jones, who, went to Guyana and offered them all, some kind of weird Kool-Aid, and they all died. I think if that same kind of behavior, that same kind of cult behavior is very much a part of Donald Trump's world. And I think it's a very scary world because it's not a world that's rational. You can't sit down and have a rational conversation with these people, you know, to really, excuse me, to believe that, you know, children are being eaten by Democrats is insane. You know, that person should be hospitalized if she believes that. So I think we have a tough road, but we have to try, you know, we have to vote. I mean, one of the things that Americans are terrible about is they don't vote. You know, unless their personal self-interest is on the docket, they don't vote. And, you know, we're heading towards an election in the next couple of months. And it's going to be, I think, really sad to see how many people don't vote. If they don't vote, they will leave the Congress the way it is, and it will be impossible for Biden to get anything done of any substance, because the Republicans are not there to do government. They're there to hold the line, and their line is what Mitch McConnell tells them it is. And that's against us. You know, just remember when, some of you remember when Obama tried to put Merrick Garland in as a judge candidate, and Obama and Mitch McConnell wouldn't let it happen. So we got Amy Coney Barrett as, you know, as a substitute. So I think we, you know, Barbara, I don't know, it's hard to be nice to these people, but I think we have to try to talk with them, you know, and try to explain to them. I have a hard time doing this. You know, I don't like them, but I also have a responsibility, you know. My community is my responsibility. It's been my responsibility for 50 years. I can't just shirk it, you know.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So do you think the whole, you know, issue of the Roe v. Wade possibly being overturned is going to get people to vote? You think that's going to be enough to get people out of their homes?
I would hope. You know, I've long since learned that when things come up that, you know, there are groups that are voting. You know, I think every woman should stop having sex with men, period. Just don't do it. No, I'm sorry.
That's very easy.
Yeah, we can't do what we want to do. Our bodies are not ours, they're obviously yours. You look at all the people talking about, you know, abortion, it's white men in suits. Well, okay, quit sleeping with them. Don't have sex with them. Let them go masturbate. That's it for them. You know, that it's really quite astonishing that people feel like they can control somebody else's life in that way. But I think it's going to go down. I really do. This whole leaking of this message, which I think is outrageous. I've never known that to happen. Is sort of a statement about where we're going. Our only hope is that a couple of the people on the court will recognize, along with those who automatically will recognize it, that this is not good legislation, and that it defies what it doesn't. It says women don't have rights. You know, we'll go back to the days. Those of us, I mean, I think maybe Barbara, you might remember, and some of the others of you might remember when it was the coat hanger days, when women were dying in back alleys of bad abortions. And I think we'll go back to that.
And remember the days of women taking power, learning how to use speculums and being self-assertive and understanding their own bodies, and all of a sudden feeling empowered in ways that we never had before.
Right, right. Yeah, and I would hope that women would recognize that and not allow this to go unnoticed. You know, and there are a number of people are protesting now, I know. And I'm in admiration of the people like Cori Bush and Jamila Jayapal, who come out and talk about themselves and personalize this, you know, in a room full of men who have never gotten it. You know, they just don't understand. But yeah, there's lots of things we could lose in this. And I hope that all of you will really demand that your friends vote, not just ask them to, demand that they vote. I think we got to get to the place of demanding that people go to the polls.
So Wiggsy, who in their 20s and 30s right now in San Jose are going to be our strong LGBTQ plus activists.
Oh, boy. You know, I've been locked up in my house for almost 4 years now. And by the way, I'm going to tell all of you who are older in this room, breaking a hip is a rites of passage. Don't do it. So I don't know. I mean, I think certainly there are students at San Jose State that I hear about who are doing things. And, you know, Bonnie Sugiyama at the university is working on stuff. I know of a young Muslim man up in Fremont who has come out and is working with the Democratic Party. I mean, there are people here and there, but I can't honestly answer that question for you because I haven't been out and about. I can't get out. But I'll look into it.
Wiggsy, what's the best way to get your voice heard? How do you make your message? So if you want to start a grassroots campaign, you want to start something that people start listening to you, how do you do that?
Well, you know, you have to be kind of like a snail. You have to kind of attach yourself to an issue and slowly move the issue along. You can't ram it through for the most part, but find issues that pertain to our community or other communities. I mean, one of the things when Ken and I decided to start BAYMEC, one of the things that we decided is that we were not only going to be concerned about gay, lesbian, bi, and transgendered issues, but that we were going to be concerned about issues of communities of color or communities that are discriminated, women, you know, the API community, the Mexican community, the Indian community, and Muslims. We decided that if there was any attention to discrimination, we had to be upfront and straightforward about it and not just be so focused on just our issues, even though we were focused a lot on our issues. The other thing is to become informed, find out what's going on and find out who are the players in that particular arena and make yourself known. You know, politicians, you know, people say this all the time. I have known a number of politicians in my lifetime now, and we are so fortunate here in that we have political people who are decent and thoughtful and committed. And so we suffer from great advantage, but we don't pay attention. We don't go, Ken and I must have gone to every rubber chicken dinner in the Santa Clara Valley and San Mateo that there was, just because you have to go and you have to be seen, you have to be known. If you go and you talk to people and let them get to know you, you know, then you can bring them along, but you have to have some visibility with people who are the power brokers. And I can tell you, it's not true. Not every politician is a crook. You know, I know so many really good politicians, and we're very fortunate here to have people like Zoe Lawfrom and Anna Issue and, you know, Evan Lowe in Sacramento. But we have to recognize who the people are outside of here, who they have in Nevada and Idaho, and try to figure out how to do some things on that. But get visible, get to know people, get people to know you, get them to know what you think about, and then focus on what you want to do. What is it that you want to bring forward? What is your goal? You know, it might be that your goal is to make everybody eat chocolate pudding on Wednesday night. It doesn't matter. Just do something that gets your goal out there so people know who you are. It's not easy. I can tell you, I've hurt a number of my relationships over the years, you know, and I've had some wonderful relationships with some wonderful women, and you know, they just didn't like the fact that I was never home, understandably so. My present relationship that I've been in for 27 years, she doesn't like it when I'm not home at night to go on political things. I think she's very happy that I'm functionally disabled now. Because I can't go anywhere, but you know, it's a very time-consuming endeavor to get people to go down the trail you want them to go. And some of you already know that. You've put that time in. I mean, Rourke and Gill certainly put that time into the Rotary Club.
And what have you done to keep yourself motivated during those times, knowing that you're moving at a snail's pace?
I'm a good snail. You know, I meant what I said when I said that my favorite season is winter, because I really do have kind of a stormy way of being in the world. And I'm infuriated with things that disenfranchise people or make people victims of stupid things, you know, violence, you know, misunderstanding, stupidity, racism, sexism, heterosexism. I don't like those things. It makes me really angry. And so I stay involved because I get pissed off, frankly.
So I just keep thinking about, you know, what it must have felt like to get fired because you were a lesbian. Tell us about, I mean, you remember how you felt?
Yeah, I was really angry. I mean, that's been my fallback position. You hurt me, I get angry. I don't like being hurt. And it just felt so, it seemed so stupid to me. I had worked for these people for 5 years. And I actually I had a bunch of teenagers that I went and scooped up out of probation areas and juvenile hall and put them to work working with schizophrenic kids, and got a lot of rewards for that program. And our teenagers weren't in jail. They were out doing something for that. And they had a good time. I mean, I would sometimes see them doing something with one of our students who were, you know, barely disabled. And I'd have to turn my back because I'd go, oh my God, I hope they don't drop her. You know, because young people are just so, oh, you can't tell me I can't do it. Of course I can do it. And so I actually felt like our program was a good program, was doing good things. And to fire me because of my lifestyle was just a statement of utter stupidity on the part of the people who were big shots at Stanford, you know, big names at Stanford. And I thought to myself, well, that taught me a lesson. The lesson I learned is you could be a big name at a university of some prestige and still be stupid. You know, I mean, that was an important lesson for me, but it was really terrible. It was very hurtful to me. It was, for me, it was the kind of the realization of my ultimate fear about what would happen. I was reading in the New York Times yesterday, there's a big article about the man that moved the discrimination or the American Psychiatric Association away from making gay and lesbian and bi transgender people sick, twisted, you know. And I mean, he had to do that with a mask and a shirt that covered him up and hid him. And he gave this wonderful speech at the APA, but people didn't know who he was because it was dangerous to do that. And he was really frightened. You know, it was kind of scary. So I really had a hard time. And then I really didn't know what I was going to do. I mean, I had not really been brought up to get a job and go to work. I was supposed to be a lady and get married and have children, which was really not on my agenda. So I just decided I didn't know what I was going to do. Fortunately, San Jose State invited me to come in and do this sabbatical leave thing. And it was from that I was able, fortunately, to parlay, you know, my position. At the time, homosexuality was still illegal in California. It was before Willie Brown had finally got the legislation through that made us not illegal any longer. So I was vulnerable. I was out there with no protection, and it scared me. So, but I decided that, well, I wasn't going to put up with that. And then the Briggs Initiative came along, and that really gave me some impetus to do something.
So we have a couple minutes left. So any final questions from anyone? We kind of moved right into the 15 minutes of questions. You asked about questions, Wiggsy.
Say again?
Besides Roe v. Wade, do you see any other areas that seem to be the most pressing or that were pressing before this onslaught happen.
Well, I certainly, I think I really worry about the trans people because of the kind of stuff that's going on and what they're saying about trans people. And I worry about parents who have GLBT kids. Fortunately, a lot of those parents are out today and out with their kids and protecting them, unlike the way they were, say, 25 years ago. But I think that the kids are going to suffer if they continue down this path of don't say gay, and trying to get rid of books. I thought to myself, having Ron DeSantis president of the United States, which he would really like to be, it's kind of like having Adolf Hitler president of the United States. And he's an awful man, and he's a smug, self-important, dumb shit.
Don't hold back.
And will do anything. And he knows, and a lot of people in the Republican Party, I don't like to do that, but in the Republican Party, a lot of people believe that if you get on the bandwagon of hating gays, hating trans people, and hating women, then you can win. And I think we're going to see that in fact is true. I think they're going to, I'm really concerned about what will happen to, if they get into power again, what will happen to new arrivals to the United States from other countries. This country was built on immigrants. They seem to forget that. The Irish probably don't remember today how they were treated, or the Italians, how they were treated when they first came to this country, really badly. And now they're turning around and doing the same thing to others who come, who because they worship a different God, or because they look different or dress different, or come from down south of the border. I'm always interested. There's a lot of people that come in from Canada. Most people don't know that, that kind of come across the borders. Not so much now because of COVID, but nobody ever paid attention to immigration when it was people coming from Canada, but they looked like us, mostly white, but they were heterosexual at least. Now, with the Latinx people coming in from the southern countries and the circumstances that they're coming under, and their children and things, it's tragic to me that we see that as a bad thing. I would refer anyone who thinks we shouldn't have immigrants coming into this country to go to Salinas in the middle of the summer when it's 90 degrees out and pick watermelons like the people that are picking them are doing for us, putting food on our table. We don't think about it that way. We just think about they look different, and we don't like the way they are, and we don't like the way they dress, and so they're not good people. And that to me is really outrageous. This is why I think we all have to fight against discrimination all the time.
Great comment to end with, I think. So thank you very much, Wiggsy. It's been great hearing from you.
Well, thank you. And I'm sorry I can't be there. You all take care of yourselves. Rourke and Gil know how to reach me. If ever I could be helpful, just give me a call.
Right.
I'm happy to talk to people. Huh? So
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
yeah, and finally, in the very end, what I'd like to say is that I would like to join Rotary, but I have no idea if I'm a welcome person because I don't have a business and I'm retired.
It's not business. No. They've changed.
I don't know how to join. I think Rourke or Gil.
We'll help you. We'll help you.
Join us.
Yeah, join us. Because we do things, we're hybrid now.
Say again, I'm sorry.
We do, as you can see, we do online things as well as in person.
Online. Say that I can't quite hear.
Yeah, so hybrid meaning like just this meeting today, we're on Zoom and we're in person.
Oh, I
So
see.
you don't have to come in person to things, but yeah, we'd love to have you join us. Francis, our membership chair, can contact you and let you know how. That would be great.
Yeah, if somebody would tell me how, I'd love it.
Okay, perfect.
Love it.
All right.
You all take care of yourselves.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
Make your friends vote.
You're very, very inspiring. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right.
Gonna get out there in the streets.